Okay, yeah. Here's some quotes by 4 people that I consider heroes. They wouldn't want to say that they were, but they've done things that transcend the conflict in ways that have made big differences. Unfortunately, there's not enough people doing these things and raising up the things that these people have done. Leah Zemel is a Israeli lawyer who worked for Palestinian rights. And as it says here, she won a landmark case that outlawed the use of torture by Israeli officials with detained Palestinians. Unfortunately, that still goes on, even though there were several Israeli court cases saying this is totally illegal and you can't do it. And I like this quote. It seems that my parents and others who wanted to build the state of Israel did not understand that it's impossible to build a new future on the relics of oppression. You know, that leftover residue of frustration and hatred and anger, you know, always seems to bubble back up when oppression's been involved, you know, rather than working and finding ways for both sides. Arik Asherman is one of the most amazing people that I ever met. At the time I met him, he was the director for Rabbis for Human Rights. He's not that any longer. He resigned that post as a way to continue his work in the occupied territories of speaking up as a rabbi and working for peace and, you know, putting the human face for Palestinians of what it means to be an Israeli Jew. And I love this quote of his. Sometimes when you have tried everything else, and particularly when you see the values that we are sworn to uphold as rabbis being trampled on, you have no choice but to stand in front of the bulldozers, to exercise that democratic right of civil disobedience, to try to have the opportunity in court to show that it's the law, the policy that's really illegal and immoral. And I love that he does, you know, that he says things like this and he lives this out, that, you know, he's been arrested numerous times and sometimes he doesn't get arrested because they know he'll take it to court, he'll make it go to court and he'll talk about these injustices and he'll put it, you know, in the proper religious terms, but also just the proper human rights terms. And Arik's just one of the incredible, amazing people. Another one is Jeff Halper. Jeff is an Israeli professor, and I actually have a photo of the day that they founded the Israeli Committee Against Home Demolition. We were at a place where a home had been demolished, and Jeff had, in CPT, like I say, we're always trying to work with people on all sides, so we had arranged for some Israelis to come down, and Jeff had heard about it, and he brought some people too, to try to stop these home demolitions that were going to happen. We were unsuccessful, and afterwards, which is, I mean, it says so much about Palestinian hospitality. We were in a makeshift tent on top of the ruins of this one family's home. And the mother and her sister and a couple other women who had had homes demolished that day had went over to a cousin's house, and they came back with what's called makluba, which is a chicken and rice meal, platters of these to serve to us for trying to try to stop these, even though we were unsuccessful. And I think about, you know, after somebody's just demolished my house, am I going to feel hospitable enough to do that for somebody that maybe come to help me? You know, I mean, I would be probably more consumed with my own grief and frustration and anger and everything. Anyway, we're sitting on this thing. There's in the one photo I have, Jamie Bullmeister's CPTer sitting there and Jeff sitting next to him, and Jeff has his phone out. And what had happened is we're sitting there on these ruins talking about what's the next steps, what can we go from, how do we go from here and stuff. Jeff said, you know, if Israelis are going to demolish these homes, Israelis should help rebuild them. And he said, let me make some phone calls. And so he got on there, and that was the beginning of what became the Israeli Committee Against Home Demolitions, or ICAD, as it's the abbreviation of the initials. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. We think as Israelis that Jews and Arabs should live together. Palestinians should have the rights of self-determination just like we have. So we have to fight also for their rights. One of our slogans is, we refuse to be their enemies. And I love that whole concept, because we often never talk about that when we're talking about people we're in conflict with. That is the choice. I can be their enemy, or I can refuse to be their enemy. I'm going to be the person who sees them as another human being with maybe a different viewpoint than I have, but maybe we can find a way to find a neutral ground and transform the situation from bad to something we both can live with. And we refuse to be their enemies. That says a lot about Jeff. And while this talks about him being nominated for the 2006 Nobel Peace Prize, he's actually more times have been nominated for that, and the organization have been that. And another partner of his, from the Palestinian side, this is Ghassan Adoni, and he's just an incredible. He's so humble and so low key that you would think, well, he's just not anybody that's doing anything. And yet, he's always there on the front lines, always willing to step across the lines to work with people, and that's how he became friends with Jeff and part of that there. And his group that he works with is the Palestinian Center for Rapprochement Between People. And then he also helped with the International Solidarity Movement. And that's been a really, really influential thing in some ways. And then his quote here is a really good one. Conflicts are fueled by the tendency of the powerful to exploit the power and the anger and the frustration of the powerless, which turns into violence. We're attempting to confront the exploitation of power and to bring back hope to the powerless. And that, to me, really sums up a lot of all conflicts around the world. We have people for political gain or monetary gain or whatever who use their power to not respond in a positive way that lets the ones that are suffering the most have a voice. And anytime one of them maybe does something bad, they'll exploit that by making it seem bigger than it really was, whatever they did or said. And for their own gain, they let the thing blow up, and people like Ghassan speak out against that and stuff. But that's what he's talking about there. We're attempting to confront the exploitation of power and bring back hope to the powerless. And I think that's what we do in CPT, We want to put, a face that here's a person that deserves to have a right to live, that are good people, that have, a chance to have a life would transcend this negative aspect that they're living in.